Now, here's what frustrates me about these options as they're presented to you. They're all presented like magic bullets. Like you can just pick one of these tiers and go. Like once you're aware of one of these strategies, that's all you need, and just growth is imminent. And that is untrue. It leads to some very poor decisions. Let me explain. Hey, it's Alze Calhoun with Coveted Consultant. Let's talk about how to scale a consulting business and how to think through the scaling process. So let's start with defining the word scaling. So when we talk about scaling, here's the definition that we're going to use. Scaling equals make more money with less effort. So you have hit the billable hour wall. You have hit the personal bandwidth wall. You've hit the profitability wall. Like you just can't seem to find a way to make more money without mentally going crazy. So you need a picture of growing your consulting business while respecting your personal bandwidth. Make more money with less personal effort. Okay. Now let's talk about consulting. When we think about the term consulting, what are we saying? So that we know that we're speaking English here. So consulting means we're going to define that by one, you sell a service. So there's a thing you do for someone else. So that service is intangible. It can't be seen. It can't be touched. It's kind of elusive in that way. Third is that this is built off your expertise, your experience, your background, your unique knowledge. There's something that you've put together into a service that you offer to someone else. So this makes consulting hard to scale because it seems so personal. Now, the issue, the layered issue on top of that is when you think about scaling your business, it is as intuitive and as invisible to you as it is to your client base. Meaning your operations are all over the place. Like you just do a thing, and that thing just happens to make money, and you do it as good and as fast as you know how to do it. But there's no sense of, or little sense of, system or process. It's just do the awesome thing that you do. So this is one of the number one things that makes scaling so difficult, is that it just all seems like magic to you. It's all so intuitive. It's all so invisible, all so intangible. So one of the first things you have to do if you're going to scale anything is you have to unpack this wizardry. You have to unpack this magic. You have to unpack all these complex ideas that make your business go. Let me give you a framework for that right now. So when you think about scaling your business, let's immediately give your business some structure. What we want to do is we want to look at your business in terms of 3 core systems. So we want to define these systems as client acquisition. We want to call this system client service. This is client service, and this third section over here is client retention. Now, in many situations, just seeing your business in this shape immediately changes how you see everything. All of a sudden, there's less magic going on. There needs to be a method or a process by which you acquire clients. You're probably doing something right now, but you don't see it as a method. It's just kind of a thing that works. So when I say method, I mean quite literally, you can spell this out step by step. There's a process for how you get clients. When a client signs on, they are now an actual client, and so now there's a way you deliver that service. It has a step-by-step set of mechanics. Can you see that for yourself? When you've delivered something for your clients, now there's a method that you use to retain them, and that client stays for months and for years on end. These 3 things need to exist inside your business. They can't be magical. They can't be assumed. They can't be intuitive. They've got to be playbooked. They've got to be concrete so that you know what you're repeating, and your team members know what they're repeating, and your clients know what's being repeated, so they have a clear scope of work. So these 3 systems all of a sudden make your business scalable, because now you know what task can be repeated, and if you know what's being repeated, you can do it faster. that allows you to make more money with less personal effort. So we agree your business can't be this big block of activities. We have to break it out into essential functions. We now have the essential functions, okay? Now, there's three levels of scaling, or three strategies for scaling. Let's highlight those so you can make your next decision. So the first step to scaling is scaling your one-on-one work. And there's nothing wrong with this. This is where the majority of us get started. So scaling your one-on-one client acquisition is about growing your personal network. It's about asking for referrals. It's about doing classic prospecting. This is work that you do yourself in an effort to attract a new client. Nothing wrong with that. It's a good place to start. One-on-one service work is typically doing a service one-on-one directly with the client. Maybe you do it face-to-face. Maybe you go into their office. Maybe you charge by the hour. But it's a customized one-on-one direct service being offered to your client. So that is the next, or that's how one-on-one is delivered in the service model. One-on-one in retention is an extension of what you just did for the service. So if they liked the first thing you made, we'll make another. If they liked the first thing you did together, we'll do it again. And that creates an ongoing relationship with your client. So the first place to scale is to start with doing what you currently do better. Spell it out better. Give it better process. Allow yourself to do it faster. Understand it more clinically. Give it playbooks. That will give you efficiency, make more money with less personal effort. So the second tier of scaling is about scaling with content. So from a client acquisition perspective, now we're talking about using blogs, search engine optimization. We talk about creating white papers and ebooks. We're trying to take our expertise and our knowledge and use that knowledge to attract clientele. So we start putting content out into the world. From a service perspective, now we start selling courses and programs, education and learning, and selling those as services to be delivered to our client base. That's the next level of scaling. Retention is an extension of what you offered in service. So if they like the first book you wrote, well, then write a second book. If they like the first webinar you offered, the first paid training you offered, well, then offer a second paid training. We start scaling through content. In the third tier, we start looking to aggressive automation. So this becomes a conversation where we're using advertising initially to acquire clients. We are now using some application of software to deliver our services. And then we're automating further with additional software on the back end. So now whether you're advertising in Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, YouTube, or some other platform, you are now calculating the value of a customer, because that's determining how much you can spend on advertising to acquire that person. Software, whether you have bought some software, whether you have hooked up some tools or created custom software inside your own business, delivering your value or delivering the value to your end client is a function of software deployment. You now have robust tools to deliver your end deliverable. Retention is an extension of what you did in the service model. So if they enjoy your software, well, they can stay on as a subscriber. If they like the first piece of software, well, then you'll make them a second piece of software. But this becomes the most aggressive way, or most automated way of scaling your consulting business. Now, are there hybrids here? Can you mix and match this? Absolutely. But you're going to find yourself in one of these three main categories. The majority of your leverage, the majority of your scaling power is going to be found in the fact that you do one of these three things well. Now, here's what frustrates me about these options as they're presented to you. They're all presented like magic bullets. Like you can just pick one of these tiers and go. Like once you're aware of one of these strategies, that's all you need, and just growth is imminent. And that is untrue. It leads to some very poor decisions. Let me explain. Each of these tiers has its set of trade-offs, and you need to understand what those trade-offs are in order to make the best decision for your consulting business. Let me give that some context. So in the one-on-one category, right, one of the first things that draws us to scaling the one-on-one is we can hire people, right? We can hire people who will do the one-on-one work for us, right? And that's good. What we miss is that we still need the insight from those interactions. The one-on-one interaction gives you very specific insight. Being able to look a client in the eye and hear what their main issue is an incredible opportunity for client understanding, for insight to leverage. So when you start hiring people to do these tasks for you, are you delegating the insight? Are you giving the insight away? Or are you still capturing the insight? That's my point. You have to make sure that as you hire people to grow and scale, that the insight is still being considered, still being valued, still being leveraged inside your business. For those of us that want to scale through content, we're drawn to content because that we know that content can give us some evergreen leverage, right? If you create a good content and you put it up on your website, it lives there forever, right? It can always attract new clientele. It can always attract new traffic. We like that. Like that's a good thing. What we don't appreciate is that creating content is a very new skill for most of us. Creating content that attracts clients is a new skill. Creating content that a client can use is a new skill. Creating content that clients will want to continually buy for the long term is a new skill. You're used to creating content from an expert's point of view, how you think about it, how you want to say it. But if you want content to really give you an evergreen advantage, you're going to have to create it from the client's point of view. And that's a different skill. So yes, content provides a certain level of leverage. But if you don't adopt the skill of creating content, it's elusive leverage. You'll find yourself spinning your wheels trying to create what you think to be sexy content. So now let's look at the third tier, right? What's the danger of the third tier? What you get in the third tier is speed. Advertising gives you speed, no doubt. You can reach so many people so much faster with advertising. Software gives you speed. It allows you to deliver a repetitive task very, very quickly. And that's what it's for. Nothing wrong with that. What is hidden from us when these things are recommended to us is the need for investment. You have to spend money in advertising in order for advertising to work. You have to spend enough money on enough advertising so you have enough data to decide what you should keep investing in or not. Developing software is a thing. Developing software is an expensive thing. And if you've never done that before, if that's new to you, the length of time it takes and the number of iterations it takes to develop successful software can be absolutely intimidating. So where there's speed available at this third tier, for sure, it requires a certain level of investment, and you should be aware and prepared for that level of investment. So if you've reached a moment of personal bandwidth and scaling is on your mind, you owe it to yourself and you owe it to your business to think through this moment cleanly. We have to admit that your business right now could very much be a mix of activities, just one big mashup of things that you do. And seeing it as a big mashup doesn't help you. You got to break it apart into major essential functions. And so I'd offer you that there are three core functions: client acquisition, client service, client retention. And you got to spell those things out as steps that you're comfortable following. Once you see those things as steps, then you can begin to decide how to accelerate those steps. You can do it through one-on-one. You can do it through content. You can do it through automation. There is no right and there is no wrong. But you owe it to yourself to make a sober assessment of where you are now and which of these 3 scaling strategies makes the most sense for you and your business. And as you decide, consider what those trade-offs are, what you get and what you might lose, because your profitability lives in the balance.